"What did you see? And why were you away so long?" her sisters asked anxiously, but the youngest princess just shook her head and sighed. Many times she rose to visit the place where she had left the prince. She saw the snow melt on the mountains, the fruit ripen on the trees, but she never once saw him. Sadly, she returned to her marble statue where the seaweeds, now untended, grew wild and free and entwined their long stems and tendrils amongst each other until her whole garden became a bower. After a time, the little mermaid could bear her unhappiness no longer, and with bitter tears recounted her tale to her sisters. "I only wish I could see him again," she sobbed as she dabbed at her eyes with a soft pink anemone. The princesses questioned everyone in the kingdom, and at last a young mermaid spoke out. "I know of this prince," she said. "I know exactly where he lives." "We have found him," the princesses told their young sister, and soon, arm in arm, all 6 of them were bobbing in the sea in front of the prince's palace. A gold dome crowned the building, and inside they could see a tall fountain sparkling diamond bright. The moonlight danced on the water and fell on the rich silks and paintings which hung about the rooms. Marble statues stood proudly on guard either side of the white steps which led down to the water. After that, the little mermaid returned to the palace almost every day. She watched the young prince as he sat all alone on the balcony. She listened to the fishermen as they cast their nets and wished that she could speak to them. Humans could sail all over the ocean, climb high mountains, and walk through green woodlands. And how she wished she could too. One day, she visited her grandmother. "Do humans live forever, or do they die like us?" she asked. "They die as we die," replied the old woman, "and their life is much shorter than ours. We live to the grand age of 300 years, and when we die, we become foam on the sea and can never live again. But human beings have souls which continue to live even after their bodies have died." The mermaid thought a while. "I wish I could be human, grandmother," she said. "Is there a way that I can live in the upper world and have a soul which will live forever?" Her grandmother smiled and shook her head. "Only if you found a man who loved you so deeply that you meant more to him than life itself, who loved you enough to share his whole life with you for all eternity, then your souls would unite and you would know human bliss. But I am afraid that can never be, little granddaughter." "Why, oh why?" begged the little mermaid. Her grandmother patted her head. "Because what we see as our most beautiful gift, our tail, is seen by man as something hideous. To be handsome in the upper world, you must have 2 clumsy stalks, which they call legs." Sadly, the little mermaid regarded her silvery scales. "Be happy," urged the old woman. "You will have 300 years of joy to fill, and then you can rest peacefully when your life is over." That night there was a court ball in the undersea kingdom. The crystal clear walls of the ballroom were decorated with hundreds of green and rose pink shells. From each one a bright light shone forth, streaming across the splendid room and out through the glassy walls, lighting up the ocean. Hundreds of fish gathered to watch, and each one gleamed like a jewel, crimson and purple, silver and gold. Through the centre of the room flowed a bright, clear stream, and there danced the mermen and mermaids. Sweet song filled the air, and the little princess sang most sweetly of all. The mer people cheered her, and for a moment she was happy to be reminded that there was no more lovely a voice than hers in all the sea. Then her thoughts returned to the upper world. Sadly, she remembered her grandmother's words, 300 years of joy. But the princess felt her life would never be full of joy because she could not forget her handsome prince. Quietly, she stole away from the merrymaking and sat alone in her neglected garden. If only I could join my prince, she whispered. Suddenly, she sat up straight. She had remembered the sea witch.